Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what is the first night of the Polyphony Digital Drivers Trophy and the return of GTRC for streaming, at least, and streaming on my channel. So we are underway now for the first qualifying session of the season. Technically not the first ever, as we did do a pre-season race, but ignore that. And this could be quite an interesting format, I think it's fair to say. Who came out first? Right, we'll be on board with Witchell for this. Pitch black for some reason. But yeah, so the only testing we've done for this was a pre-season testing race, and what we can basically tell you from that is the format is brilliant, to put it lightly. There's a 10-minute qualifying followed by 3 15-minute sprint races, the first of which is set by this qualifying, and then the latter are done by reverse grid. One of those sprint races will be done on the medium tyre, the other two will be done on the softs. It's up to the driver to interpret when to use this medium tyre and when to use the softs. You might see a couple use them on the first race, you might see a couple use them on the second or third. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, but if all the drivers use them at the same time, or they use them at the same time every single week, it's a pretty strategic thing that you can pick up on and, you know, figure out how to beat others quite easily. So yeah, it's an easy format. It's one that myself and one of the other drivers on the grid, Will Sutters, we did, I want to say 3-4 years ago in another league, and it works very well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it works in this. The track tonight is Trial Mountain, and I'll just explain the whole premise of the series while we go on board in this view with a very laggy Jake Witchell, as he is the first to set a lap, I think, unless he slows down here. No, so Jake will be the first to set a lap. So the premise of the series is basically celebrating all that is great about Polyphony Digital. They have made a couple of good games. This one of them, up to interpretation. Some people call it good. So basically the whole season is going to be racing in these 90s Group 3 race cars, GT cars if you will, because that's what they are in real life, around some of the fake tracks that Polyphony has made as Jake takes. I'd imagine it's a good entry through there, but honestly it's a bit too late to see. And the first of which is Trial Mountain, which is perhaps the most iconic Gran Turismo track, I think it's fair to say. First appearing in, correct me if I'm wrong, Gran Turismo 4. Don't shoot me, I think that's when it was. It was, yeah, it's a pretty iconic one. This iteration of the track has seen multiple differences. For example, the back straight is a little bit longer, and the main straight as well, I'm assuming, is a little bit longer. And the big main difference that everyone remembers is that final chicane that we saw Jake go through just a minute ago has been changed drastically since the previous games. Now it's a much heavier braking zone, which allows for much better overtaking, whereas previously it was, well, a much easier hop over the curb, full speed, and jump over what is essentially a hill. So honestly, that is a positive change. But now watching Jake through what is one of the harder sections of the lap, because you have to go up over that crest and brake just at the peak of the crest, gets a nice apex, just stays out of the wall, and then again really difficult corner as you're braking downhill for this one, need to keep the car in shape. But he gets a nice exit there for what is going to be the first official timed lap of the PDT. Let's run you through the cars real quick after he sets this lap. You see there is where the hill used to be that you could launch yourself over. So a bit of iconic Gran Turismo history gone in that. Jake Witchell crosses the line for a very competitive 149.8. I'm sure you'll be very happy with that, but looking for more. Adam goes second fastest with a I say that, but Will Sutters has just set the second 149 of the race, only just getting to 149, so Dominic Kubinski setting a 150.1. All competitive lap time straight out of the box, and, you know, stuff to look forward to, I think. So let's run you through the cars. The first one we saw Jake Witchell doing that lap on is the Nissan GTR, the R34 to be exact. This car is a cult hero in many forms, all thanks to Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious. I believe that was the first one it showed up in. I don't know because I'm not a Fast and Furious fan, but to many who didn't know, it's actually a race car, and this is it. And it was very famous because when it came into Super GT, it had, I believe it still had a shifter and a clutch. Could be wrong. At the very least, it was a double clutch, but it's it was a turbocharged inline six, I believe. I honestly I couldn't really tell you much about engines from that period of Super GT or JGTC, but it competed in the Japanese GT Car Championship as a part of the GT 500 category, and it won its first ever season. It was completely dominant in every single way, and as you could hear, every single time it lifts off, it has anti-lag, which is a gorgeous, beautiful thing, and that's why you'll see flames spitting out the left-hand side occasionally, right there, as you see. Behind him is the equally as iconic Toyota Supra in this, well, I say, beautiful livery inspired by Baja Blast, the Mountain Dew flavour you can get from Taco Bell. Just hope Taco Bell makes it good for you. And again, the Supra debuted in 1997, I believe. Very similar story to the Nissan GTR. GTR debuting in 1999, if I am not mistaken. 1998, sorry. But the Supra is very similar. It's a turbocharged, as you see with the flames there, turbocharged anti-lag monster. And it too won absolutely everything when it entered the JGTC, the Japanese GT Car Championship. You're seeing a trend here because the next car we're going to look at is the Honda NSX, this beautifully adorned pink car, might I add. That livery took way too long to figure out. I don't even want to, admit that, but it did. This one is a naturally aspirated. It's one of two naturally aspirated cars on the grid, but the only naturally aspirated full-bred JGTC car on the grid. It's a mid-engine, 6-cylinder, I believe, like all of the other ones except for one, but we'll get to that one in a sec. This one debuted in the year 2000, I think, or at least it was 1999, year 2000, somewhere around there. And it came into the series and won everything. And pretty immediately. And you're noticing a trend. The JGTC and Super GT throughout history, a new car comes into the GT 500 category and it wins everything, and they have to change the balance of performance to make it slower. Now the final example of that we have in this series, and the oldest car on the grid, is, if you go back to Ruben, the McLaren F1 GTR. Now this car is slightly inaccurate in some form because this is the Le Mans spec McLaren F1 GTR. The short tail, before they convert it to the long tail, has a roaring V12 engine, which is... I love the McLaren F1, I love the McLaren F1 GTR. However, as V12 engines go, it sounds, put politely, shit. It's really one of not the nicest sounding V12s of all time, but it's there. And Ruben is using the exact livery that came into the JGTC, or what is now known as Super GT, and won everything. It won everything. It took part in 2 or 3 seasons, and it wiped the floor with the competition. This was the number 60 and the number 61 Team Go Lark McLarens. So we see one of them here. Obviously this has got number 71 for Ruben's number, but this is what the car looked like, and might I say, it is one of my favourite race cars of all time. But in real life, they didn't have those Le Mans spec floodlights. They were taken off for the JGTC. This car is based off of the 1993, I believe, Le Mans winning. Couldn't tell you the team name. I think it's Kinomitsu, but don't quote me on that. The Ueno Clinic car. So that's what it's based off, and it's stunning, put politely. It's a stunning car. It's one of my favourite race cars of all time, and I'm very glad to see it on the grid. Another fun fact as well about myself and Will Sutters: when we first opened GTRC, our first legitimate and real league was in this car. So there's a lot of history in the GTRC for this, and a lot riding on Ruben Thorejo's shoulders here. But we'll just look further down the grids. Obviously, I'm going to talk to you more about the format while qualifying's about to end. I believe Jake Witchell is about to finish on pole, unless Will Sutters can do anything to improve, but we're just going to look further down the grid still. So the format this season is drastically changed from previous seasons. Obviously, previous seasons you had a Teams Championship and a Drivers' Championship, or you just had a Drivers' Championship. This season, we don't have a Teams Championship, but we do have a Constructors' Championship. And the Constructors' Championship is basically run off like a dropped points system. I think that's the easiest way to put it. I wouldn't really necessarily call it drop points. However, it's up to interpretation. Basically, the top 2 cars per race, per manufacturer, are the ones that scores the points. So in the case of Supra, you're looking at your likes of Stein, Van der Hart, that we're looking at right here. Also Captain Chubbs, there he is, Che Easton, and Will Sutters. Whoever out of them are the top 2 finishers, and each race will score the points for Team Toyota or Team Supra. Same goes for Nissan, Jake Witchell, and who is performing quite well actually, Adam Hands, doing a really solid job in this qualifying session, keeping himself in the top 5, and I suspect he'll probably stay there. He's doing a very good job. Those would be the top 2 point scorers in this situation. The NSX, again, we've got the likes of Dominic Kabinski, Sophie, and there you go, there's one of our new drivers. We've got 2 new drivers on the grid, both Belgian, Dreltschout and Verpeyten. So, interesting stuff. I think it's fair to say they've already finished qualifying. Unfortunately, it's not the best debut to the GTRC for them, but there's plenty of more opportunities for them to come. So those 2 top drivers, and then the same for the McLarens. It's a difficult situation because there's only 2 McLarens, so they'd have to be consistent every week showing up to get the points. But it's a very different system. Drivers' Championship works the same as always, but with the reverse grid races, it's anyone's guess who's going to come out on top. Likely the quickest drivers, as Jake goes for another blisteringly quick lap, a 1:49.7. Can Will answer that? It's going to be close, but not close enough. A 1:50 dead, not even improvement. But Dominic Kabinski does go faster and puts himself onto the front row. So it's anyone's guess, really. Honestly, it's between these 3. I'm going to be completely honest, it's between these 3 who are going to be the quickest this season. Tyler Davison, if he was showing up to this round, I would put him in the bag as well, but it's difficult to pick out Tyler Davison now, considering he's missed the first round. So that is the qualifying grid set for tonight. So your front row is Jake Witchell and Dominic Kabinski. The second line of qualifying will be Will Sutters and Che Easton, Captain Chubbs. Row 3 is Adam Hands and Sophie. Row 4, Ruben Thorejo and Zolt Langstadler. And then behind that, it is Stein van der Hart and Dreltschout, and then Verpeyten, and obviously at the back of the grid, Jake Birkenhead. Obviously joining in late, having to miss qualifying. But it's all good, so we will have 12 drivers tonight, which is a lovely debut. On the cards, we did look like we might have had a full grid. Fortunately, that hasn't come to fruition, but later on in the season, keep your eyes out, maybe we'll get a full grid. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm actually going to take a drink because my voice kills. So those of you new to the GTRC, you probably don't know who these drivers are. I am going to give you little backstories on their history throughout the race, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, this isn't our first series that we've run on the GTRC. Far from it, in fact. We've been doing this for 5 years, technically, which makes me feel like an old man. But 4 years for technical proper leagues. And the first of these technical proper leagues was in, as I mentioned, the McLaren F1 GTR. But speaking of this McLaren F1 GTR driver, Ruben Thorejo is actually a former GTRC champion. But he couldn't tell you that, because when we were awarding him the Alfa Romeo 155 trophy, he was too busy screaming and laughing over us for him to actually hear us giving it to him. So, Ruben, just going to let you know now, you have won a GTRC championship. I'm not making it up. You won it about 2 years ago, mate. But, you know, if you'd actually, like, you know, stop being so happy all the time, you would have heard us. But nothing against him. Nothing against him. We love Ruben. Ruben is a fan favourite here. I think it's very fair to say. And that car, I'm sure, will become a very quick fan favourite. It's very much being frowned down upon by some of the other drivers, that McLaren. Some people think it's not quite got what it takes to compete with the rest of the grid, but I think if anyone's going to prove us wrong, it will be Ruben Thorejo. Jake Burke, here he is, in this Advan-inspired livery. He is the one that had to miss out on qualifying, unfortunately, due to a Gran Turismo update. Apparently not as active on the game now. He's playing ACC, I think. He's going to have to correct me on that. It might be iRacing. But yeah, Jake's one of the newer drivers, obviously debuting quite recently. Couldn't tell you when. I think it was last season or the season before that. So here we are for the circuit grid with a false start check. Jake Whittle lining out in first, Dominic Kubinski in second. It's 5 red lights, and the lights are out, and we are underway. Dominic Kubinski getting not the best start, as you'd expect, out of that NSX. Will Sutter's getting a pretty handy start, so he already pulls alongside Jake Whittle, and in fact he does pull into the lead. Will Sutter's now leading the race. Very solid start from the Supra, not a car that bogs down much, and I'm sure Will be very happy with that position moving forwards. One that has moved up quite a lot is Zolt Langstadler. You'd expect that, but there is contact in the background. And who was that? That was Ruben Thorejo. Just as I was saying he was going to have a good start, Ruben Thorejo having contact with Sophie by the looks of it. So first crash of the season, Sophie versus Ruben Thorejo, and it looks like Sophie has waited for him. So already less issues for me, because I'm stewarding on this race, so less issues for me. Looking further up the grid, Super has ceded that position back to Dominic Kubinski. Maybe he made a mistake because the gap is a lot bigger than it was. Dominic Kubinski already dropped off massively from Will Sutters and Jake Whittle. Jake Whittle has at some point made a move for the lead. Will Sutters is hot on his tail. Is he going to go for the dive bomb? He is. Very good track for dive bombs like that, as long as you make him clean, and he has made it stick. Has he defended the exit well enough? Not quite, as Jake Whittle has gone for the old switcheroo, but they are side by side running up the hill now. Jake Whittle having to leave room, same as Will Sutters. Jake just forced to pull out there. No point saying side by side through this corner. It's really a one-car corner, and it's all you can expect from it. So Will now leading the race, Jake in third, and Dominic Kubinski. So only change from qualifying in the top 3 is Dominic has just moved down a position, and Will has moved to the lead. Further back now, Adam has he's taken P4, should I say. Zolt Langstadler has moved back a little bit. Chase Easton is, I think, looking to move back up the grid a bit. I'm not sure if he was this far back. I probably should have remembered a bit better, but we'll be fine. Jake Birkenhead, though, has made very, very big moves at the start of this race. Obviously starting in last place, now already moved up to P7. We are doing a 10-lap race, should I say, not a 15-minute race, but it should take around 15 minutes. And Jake is starting on the medium, should I point out. Some of these drivers are already on the medium tyres. Will Sutters and Jake Whittle are both on the softs. Then we've got Dominic Kubinski, Zolt Langstadler, Chase Easton, Adam Hans with a penalty. Almost making contact with Easton. In fact, I think he might have done there, but he hasn't taken the position. Adam Hans, Jake Birkenhead is also on the mediums. Stein van der Hart, Drelschout, Peyton. Verpeyton, is on the softs, and then Ruben Thorejo on the mediums. Unfortunately, his race is ruined to be on their medium tyres, so is Sophie. So all of the action appears to be for this fight for P4. Zolt Langstadler holding his ground quite well against the attacking cars. Other drivers which, for the most part, are more experienced. Some of them have won races. Zolt Langstadler still, I'm quoting sick individuals on this, one of our former commentators, the best driver to have never won a GTRC race. So still yet to get a win. I don't want to jinx it, touch wood. My chair's got wood on it, so touch wood. That Zolt will one day win that first race of his, because I think he's fully deserving personally. But we'll see now, Che just leading out Adam. Adam will have to serve this penalty, and we will show off the penalty line for the first time tonight, and it's a pretty brutal one. I think it's fair to say it's pretty brutal. So I'm just taking another drink because I've got to go to work after this and I don't want my voice to be deaf. So there we go. Adam, he does serve that penalty. Jake wasn't quite close enough behind to make anything out of it. He might go for the move into turn 1. He is going for the move into turn 1. Turn 1, quite a technical corner, as you've seen before. Difficult to make a move in, but Adam just lets him go through. Smart thing to do in this situation. There's no point going side by side through there because you'll be risking too much, especially this early on in the race. We'll look further up back in the grid. Dominic Kubinski's got himself a nice buffer, but the battle for P1 is still raging and raging hard. Jake Whittle versus Will Sutters. The battle of the turbocharged 6-cylinder, I believe they're 6-cylinder, please, if I get this wrong, I'll correct it next week. Turbocharged 6-cylinder Japanese monsters. The Supra versus the GTR. I've just done that the wrong way around, but you get what I mean. A battle as old as time in Japanese motorsport, I think it's fair to say, or at least the Skyline versus the Supra is a battle old as time. the Skyline going through the move down the inside, and the Skyline has very strong brakes and makes it look easy. The Supra still trying to hold around the outside. He does have his nose in, and he is going to go for it again, but he's just forced to back out there because there's not quite enough of it in there, and that's racing really. If you don't have enough of your nose in, you can't go for the move. So Jake Witchell retakes the lead, and we'll be hoping to maybe put a gap between him and Will Sutters. Will Sutters will not be making it that easy though. I think it's very fair to say. Although the gap is increasing between the two, maybe Will Sutters has cooked his tyres up a slightly bit more than Jake. All will be told in several laps' time. Dominic Gabinski as well, just sitting pretty behind them, knowing that if either of them make a mistake, he might be in the position to capitalise. But I'm sure he'll be very happy with the P3 at the moment. No threat in front, no threat behind. Zolt Langstadler still holding his own very well in that McLaren F1 GTR, which I said that nobody's really taking very seriously as a car choice, but it is, well, it has a lot of potential being a very fast car indeed in the right hands, and I think Zolt Langstadler is really showcasing that for us. But Che Easton, I'm sure Zolt can feel the ground shake behind him as Captain Chubbs himself, the largest man in the world, is closing down on him quite quickly. It's like that scene from Jurassic Park where the T-Rex shows up and all the water shakes. And I don't know, do people understand that reference? Like, I kind of grew up on them kind of TV shows, but I don't know. There are some older lot in here. There are some older lot in here that will appreciate that. But one thing that Chubbs will have to contend with is the straight line speed of that McLaren F1 GTR. It is very good. He is keeping the gap the same, if not increasing it at certain points, while Chubbs is in 3/10 behind him slipstream. He's making the gap bigger, and the brakes are relatively solid on that McLaren F1 GTR. So Chubbs' only opportunities really is to just catch Zolt off guard in one of the corners, and it looks like he came close there. The exit was very similar. The gap has come back to the same, give or take. All he has to do is hope that Super makes some kind of mistake, which is very possible. This is racing. Mistakes happen. One of the beautiful things. Looking back now at the top 8, Drauschel has moved himself up into the top 8, so has his teammate, Peyton, in the NSX. Running matching liveries this season, which I do like to see. And Ruben Thorejo is moving himself up the grid a bit as well. I believe Stein van der Hart might have had some kind of issue. I think it's only the top 10 reverse grid. It might be the entire grid, but I think it's only the top 10. So really, these two are going to be wanting to try and fight for 10th in an ideal situation. Gap now has increased up front between Jake Witchell and Will Sutters, now to 1.3 seconds. One that I'm sure Jake will be very happy about, one that Will was less happy about. Will obviously back from a sabbatical. His sabbatical, which many people wish would have been like Mika Hakkinen's, and he never returned. But he's back, and he insists that the reason why he's never actually won his own league before is he doesn't want to make it look rigged. I just think he's not good enough to win, to be completely honest, so Will, prove me wrong. Someone who really isn't good enough to win, though, is Dominic Gabinski. I recently found out that he's a Tottenham Hotspurs fan, and that really, it makes all of the lack of significant achievements make sense. It's never made more sense than that. So, Don's a Spurs fan, and he's kind of done it to himself, really. So, yeah, poor thing. Zolt under heavy pressure now from Che, but Che still isn't able to make that move. He has gone very deep, though. Che will get it on the exit. And he does. Che Easton through to... oh, not quite. Zolt's still on the inside. But he has to pull out. Che Easton through to P4. Zolt Langstadler forced to stay into P5. But there is a big gap behind him. I'm assuming Jake Burke and Adam Hans have been having some kind of big battle. Probably missed. But they've been having some kind of get-together. And that's made the gap between him and Zolt Langstadler quite significant, I think it's fair to say. 3 seconds. Neither of them are on the softs, they're both on mediums, so this is all to play for. But Captain Chubbs or Che Easton, I'm sure he will just have to settle for this position, unfortunately, because a 6-second gap up front is one that even closing against Dominic Gabinski might be quite difficult. Dominic obviously has been on very good form since the latest update, where the physics have changed. So good on him, all I can say, really good on him. finally showing that he can be competitive in the GTRC. Jake is now catching a bit. Jake Burke is actually, he's no stranger to driving Hondas. He does own a Honda S2000 in real life. I promise I'm not lying. He does own a Honda S2000, which immediately makes him the coolest person on this grid. No questions asked. He is the coolest person on this grid. The Honda S2000 is one of the coolest cars ever made, and I will die on that hill. It's a very cool car, and Jake, good on you. I'm glad you saved your money for that. And he commented the other day saying that you'd think he'd get girls from it, but all he gets is old men that are interested in his car. But hey, if you swing that way, you swing that way. I can't criticise you, mate. I can't criticise you. But yeah, other than that, I actually don't really know much about Jake Burke, so I'm very sorry. He has won races, I think. I couldn't tell you what race it is, but he has won them. And he is very good at many things that I am yet to see, but I promise to you he is very good at many things. Keep an eye out on him this season, though. He will do good, though, because there is no Porsche to beat him, so that's nice. He usually does do quite well whenever there's a Porsche not on track. That's a little joke if anyone remembers how much he disliked the Porsche last season. The Belgians still going strong. I'd imagine they'd probably not be working together at this point. Maybe they're trying to make a gap between them and Ruben Thurejo, because Ruben is hot on their tail. Ruben Thurejo making a big gap to Sophie behind him, 6.5 seconds. Ruben's not hanging around. It's quite disappointing actually, because you do tend to think after a race like this with a driver like that, what could the race have been had it gone slightly different? And that's exactly what I'm thinking. What could Ruben's race have been had it gone slightly different? Would he have been up there? Whoa, Droudschau making a big mistake there, just keeping it on the road. Didn't quite catch that, but he's just made a big mistake there, just about keeping it on the road. But yeah, what could Ruben's race have been had he been further up the grid, maybe not getting himself into that early race incident? Probably round about where Super is, if not higher, racing against Captain Chubbs, I reckon. Captain Chubbs, by the way, is a professional warship admiral. As this is a given fact. It's well known by everyone. But still, look at the gap up front again. Will Sutter's going purple, but Jake Witchell, to quite an old phrase of his, he's got the minerals, and he's going for it. Going downhill now to this corner, historically has the Loch Ness Monster. I don't think it does in this game, but it does have it on this, on that corner. Other things around the track, there's also a monkey on a tree, and there used to be a very big tree. There's no longer a very big tree. And there's a bear. There's a bear somewhere. It's a good track. Polyphony do a lot of details into stuff that are just not very important. I think it's fair to say. But I love my racing game. Will Sutters doesn't quite set the fastest lap though, but he's not a million miles off it. But these two setting almost identical lap times. Will caught up half a tenth there, but doing that over and over again, it's just not going to be good enough. I feel like Jake Witchell might run away with this one, but the gap is closing down slightly. But all it takes is one mistake from either of them for that gap to become non-existent, or for it to become very existent. Dominic Kavinsky has dropped back to 8.5 seconds behind Will Sutters, so there's not much threat there. It's all out for the top two. Zolt Langstadler now, Jake Burke has caught up to him and he's under the pressure from the NSX. Zolt, I'm sure, will not wanting to be ceding the position. No one ever does want to cede a position, especially when you're running in the top 5, and God forbid you want to finish in P6. I hate that position. I finished 6th every single race and I wanted to end. It's a horrible position. But Zolt Langstadler, again, he's going to have a good advantage on the straight line speed, but that NSX is no slouch on the straights, also with pretty good top end. It's going to be who is the last of the late breakers, as Daniel Ricciardo once was. Zolt goes for the inside, Jake for the outside. It's going to be a drag, well, it's not going to be a drag race, it's going to be a braking competition. Jake tries to hold that outside, but it's not quite good enough. Zolt Langstadler staying ahead. Birkenhead is just going to have to sit behind. So Jay Birkenhead will have to be waiting for the next opportunity to get a move done. Ruben's made his way up to P8 at some point, overtaking both the Belgians. one of the Belgians, is actually got a penalty. He's being hounded down by the green machine. Well, I don't really call it the green machine. I call it something to do with Shrek. But we'll leave that out of stream because it's not a very nice nickname. But yeah, Droudschau, he is being hounded down and will most definitely lose that position, especially with the penalty. He should be fine against Stein though. Stein just picked up his own penalty. Stein is having not the best night himself. Back up, the gap between Witchell and Sutters is still largely unchanged, but this is the fight that a lot of people look forward to in GTRC. Witchell versus Sutters. Very recently, this has been the one that people look forward to. That or Sutters versus Davison, Sutters versus Witt, or Witchell versus Davison. If any of them four are racing, it's going to be a good race. But as I've said earlier, do not count out Dominik Kubinski this season. He may be on the mediums this race, but he looks like, especially from pre-season, he has pace. And he is in what most people are calling the best car. I'm not going to pick out a best car, but it probably is. I'm sorry, I did need to take a drink there, because holy moly. Jake Burke, again, going for the move on Super. It seems like he's made it stick this time. Super just having to back off, but he's got Adam Hans now to contend with. Langsadler could be losing 2 positions in 1 lap here, which is not what he'll be looking to do, or any driver's looking to do. Fun fact about Adam Hans, he's actually related to Winston Churchill. Don't ask me where I got that information, I just know it. Langsadler with a very poor exit there, sliding all over the place. Not good for his tyres. Adam Hans goes through, Super makes it easy, opens the door, says, there you go mate, I won't be fighting that, because he's got a 10-second gap to his McLaren teammate behind. And that's all she wrote, I reckon, unless Super can mount a counter-attack. That is all she wrote. He's certainly close enough if he wanted to mount a counter-attack, but it's not worth it going through this corner. There you go, just pushes Adam. Showing a brain while racing, which is rarer than you'd think nowadays. But we are on the final lap, and we'll just go on board at the top. Will Sutters with a half-second penalty, so that has decided the race completely. Jake Witchell is about to take not only the first pole of the PDT, but also the first ever win, but also be starting at the back of the grid in the next race, because it's a reverse grid, baby. And the race after that is also a reverse grid. Jake Witchell, after a very good race, having to fight for this one in the early stages of the race against Will Sutters, and then keeping his pace very high against the very fast Will Sutters, I think it's fair to say. Will keeping the gap around 2 seconds for the entire race. It's impressive form from him. From a driver that is taking a season out, it's impressive form from him. So Jake, I'm sure he's going to be absolutely elated for this first win. Probably not, he really doesn't care that much about results, but he'll be elated that he beat Will. That's all that matters to him. Seeing Will cry. That sounds horrible, but it's true. Jake Sutters? Fucking hell, that must be disgusting. Jake Witchell comes around the final corner to take the win in the first ever race. Will Sutters, after serving that penalty, takes P2. Now it's Dominik Kubinski with probably the most boring drive we'll ever see this season. No competition whatsoever. Takes home P3 in the middle of nowhere. 2020 Formula 1 Max Verstappen-esque, if you will. But he does take his quickest lap of the race in the process. Che Easton comes home with a competitive P4 finish. He had quite a quiet race by the looks of it, but he's made the most of everyone else making mistakes around him. And then it's Jake Burke, Adam Hans and Zolt Langsadler coming home very fast for 5th, 6th and 7th. Ruben Thorejo, the sole Spanish man on the grid, takes home P8 in the Lark McLaren. Then it's for Peyton, one of the newcomers, takes home P9. Good debut to the series. Sophie with P10, and then the other debutant is Droudschau again. Not the debut he might have wanted, but it's only up from here. That's all I'll say. It can only go up from here. Unless you're Stein, it's gone down. But he's weaving, he's happy. If you remember, the last GTRC full season winner was Stein van Hart. He won the final race of the last season, and he's last place in the first race of this season. But as I just said, it can all go uphill. But congratulations to Jake Witchell, who not only takes pole position, but gets a clean race bonus. So good on him. Makes my stewarding life easier, so I'm just going to save that race. So good on all the drivers there. That was a pretty fun race to watch. And my voice is already dead, so we're going to do another 2 of these. We're going to have a minor break while the grid is set for the next race. And I probably should know the rules a bit better. I'm not sure if it's top 10 reverse or if it's a full grid reverse. But whatever it is, the grid is going to be reversed in one way or another. So we will be back to you in a moment while I just go get some more water. Right, we are back. Just had to get my water, quickly sprint downstairs, and I'm already out of breath because I'm very unfit. But we're back, and something Mr. Sutters has asked me is, do I want to do interviews? Potentially. We'll see how much time there is at the very end of the event. We'll do interviews at the very end if there's time, because I have places to be. I think I'm the only one here that has places to be later tonight, so I'm not going to be sticking around for too long, but I will try and make an effort. I will try and make an effort. So the grid is currently being set for the next race, and as you can imagine, it's either going to be Sophie starting on pole or Stein starting on pole. Not sure if it's a full grid. It might be top 8, might be top 6, we don't know. I'm getting it mixed up with other leagues that I do. So I think there's another one I do which is top 6 reverse, so I couldn't tell you. I'm really sorry. We'll find out after this, and I'll be on point for the rest of the season. So, all ready to get an idea what tyres people might be using. Everyone who was on the mediums last race is using softs. Looks like Will might be going for another soft race. Same with Ruben. Actually, Ruben was on mediums. Witchell is taking this as his chance to use the mediums. He will be at the very back of the grid, so nothing to lose anyway. Nothing to lose, all to gain. That's probably what he's telling himself. He's probably not telling himself that. He's probably sat there monging out, not really thinking of anything. There's not much that goes on in his head. The Peyton wants time for a smoke. So, hopefully we should be underway soon. I believe that was a no to the smoking. Sophie telling him he can do it, thinking he's in charge of the league. Stein having trouble with life by the looks of it. Stein, mate, you shouldn't be on Gran Turismo if you're struggling with everything. Go see a therapist. Super's just killed a man. Super, this is not a nice way to greet new people into the league. Ruben, I think he's practicing his start. He is, yep. We'll see the great launch of the McLaren F1 GTR. It's got the best launch of any car in this series, and it's awesome to watch it. To be fair, it's awesome to watch it. How much it pulls from the rest of the grid is seriously impressive, and I'm sure Ruben Ferrejo will find that out in this next race. going to get going now, actually. We're about to get going now. Lucky us. So it is the top 10 reverse grid, I believe. It is the top 10. So Sophie in P1 for Peyton, P2, and then it's Ruben Thorejo and Zolt Langstadler. So imagine to see those McLarens very high up, very early on. We go 3, 4, 5 red lights. And the lights are out, and we are underway. And already, as I said, Ruben Thorejo with the mega McLaren launch up to P1. Didn't take long. His teammate Zolt Langstadler also in P2. So the McLaren's leading line and stern. I think that's the term, line and stern. I thought that was an incident at the back here, but it seems like everyone got away well. Jake Witchell just keeping his position. Dominic Kubinski as well, keeping himself out of trouble. And Will Sutters in the mix of this all too. Chubbs doesn't look like he got the best of starts side by side with Will Sutters. Oh, it's carnage back here. Jake Birkenhead in the wall there, and there's Will Sutters going round. He's had an incident with Jake Witchell. Could this be the first of many? Jake Witchell and Will Sutters come together. Better to do it now than in the first race, though, I think it's fair to say. But they've had their first coming together of the season, and it looks completely accidental, I'll be honest. It was total carnage in that first section of the race. Can't really blame either of them. Ruben Thorejo leading the race comfortably and with his McLaren teammate. Too much to help. Oh, Sophie's bumped him into the wall. Jeez. Wow. That was... See, you'd expect Sophie to give that one back, but that did not look clean whatsoever. Sophie just pushed the pass to get past Zolt Langstadler. Completely desperate move. And yeah, see how that one works out when I look at it in the post-race stewarding. That's not to say I've already made up my mind, I just need to see more context. But Dominic Kubinski looks to be the first of the top 3 that is coming through, because obviously he didn't get involved in that Jake Witchell Will Sutters incident, and he is flying no less. Already on the back of Adam. Adam won't fight it hard, I can't imagine he will. Adam was also looking to be going forwards. That Sophie made a big mistake. That is Sophie made a big mistake. Sophie's off. There's much lag as something happened there, but I believe Adam's still P2, Dominic Kubinski P3, Sophie is in the shadow realm. Perhaps karma for the Zolt Langstadler incident. We'll see in the stewarding. And I'll inform you all next week on what the stewarding decisions are as well. Because I realise that if you're just tuning in to watch the YouTube and you're not actually in the Discord, then how are you going to know about the stewarding? But if you do want to be in the Discord, then just figure out a way, I guess. I don't know. I should probably come more prepared and say, this is how you join the Discord. This is our Instagram, blah, 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 blah. But I can't be bothered. Not with this first one, at least. I'll be more prepared next week. So, Ruben Thorejo with a very nice early lead. But we saw how well that worked out for Will Sutters in the first race, as he didn't end up winning that one. But speaking of Will Sutters, he is already up into P8. Jake Witchell up into P10. So they are slowly making their way back up the grid. Will Sutters, I'm sure, is quite disappointed at that one, as he's opted to use the soft tyres in this race, and this is his last set of soft tyres. So, race ruined perhaps. He's still got time to make his way back up the grid. 8 laps to go. Anything can happen. The grid's still quite close together, and he's done a good job catching himself back up, I think it's fair to say. Same with Super. Super's still got every chance he can to catch back up. But it's not the best start for Super, I think it's fair to say, and I'm sure he'll be quite disappointed in it. Captain Chubbs helped on the tail of Dominic Kubinski, and at some point I did miss this. Jake Burke has got himself involved in the action, and Jake Burke does go for the move on Adam. Adam, I can't imagine it's going to make it too difficult for him, but Dominic being very opportunistic, he sees a gap there, and Adam is forced to make room, go into the wall there, and there's all kinds of carnage in the background. Stein van Hart gets involved. Stein van Hart in the wall. Believe not really much Stein or Adam could have done there. There's a mix of unsafe releases, to be completely honest, but again, it's not an unsafe release you can blame anyone, because the car's out of control. It's a fast section, so just very unfortunate moment for the both of them as Stein does go off again. Stein's not having the best of nights, I think it's fair to say, but as we always say, it's racing. Things will look up for you in the future. It's just how it works. Dom, I think he was flashing his hazards there very briefly to try and work with Che, but Che is having none of it. Chubbs goes for that inside. Chubbs is looking for bronze, looking for gold. He gets into that top three. In the background as well, Will Sutter's coming in hot like a torpedo, but almost clips Dominic Kabinski. That was a very close one. Lucky there was no contact there. Che Easton does come through to take that P3. Dominic now under pressure from Will Sutter's. Dom seems to have lost his pace a bit. He was very fast, but now he's getting swamped a bit by Chubbs and Will, the two Supras. Team Toyota looking very strong in this first week of the series. And what an exciting series this is shaping out to be. Dominic having to look all in his rearview mirrors. He sees Supra in front of him, he sees Supra behind him. He might be thinking, oh my god, I'm in a 9-year-old boy's fantasy. Toyota Supra everywhere. Of course, these Supras don't produce a million gazillion brake horsepower because that's not how the Toyota Supra works. Jake Witchell is also making his way up the grid on their medium tyres. He's doing a very solid job of that as well. It's very realistic he could make his way up into the top 6, but he is under pressure from Adam Hans. Adam Hans obviously slightly out of position from an incident earlier, and Adam, as we know, does have pace. Especially in that GTR, Adam does have very good pace. So, it might be Jake's best move not to hold him up too much if it means slowing down Jake, and he feels like he can catch up to Zolt. It's all to play for. It's been a very hectic race. Zolt could get himself into another kind of incident. But Dominic, well, I was talking about Jake. Dominic has in fact made the move ahead of Chubbs again, but Chubbs goes for the inside. Chubbs being forced tight to that inside line, but Dom eventually moves back out to the outside. Wants to sweep him, but Chubbs is on the line. He wants to be on, and oh my word! I think there might have been a touch there between Super and Will. I believe there was. Will being let go a bit by Super, and this is what Jake was hoping to see. Yeah. Fucking hell, my voice. So the battle rages on for P3. It's playing lovely into the top two's hands, but the gap between Jake Burke and Ruben Thorejo has been getting closer. But you wouldn't expect this from McLaren F1 GTR. All the people that are doubting that car and saying it's nothing. Yes, the NSX is the meta. I think it's fair to say out of these 4 cars, the NSX is the meta, but Ruben is holding it off quite well. That front right, on the other hand, it's telling me something else. Maybe that's where the McLaren really falters the most. Adam's got himself a penalty there, so that is a little bit of stress off of Jake Witchell's back. I'm sure Jake will be quietly chuffed seeing Adam Hans with that penalty. At the very least, he won't be complaining. Adam has been, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in underestimating you, Adam, but you've been pretty bloody competitive tonight, so good on you, mate. Well done. But Adam, I'm sure, will not be happy with that penalty. He knows he can beat Jake Witchell, especially on them soft tyres. He knows he can beat him. It's going to be gutting just seeing him disappear further and further into the distance when it comes to that penalty line. But Jake Witchell, probably loving his life at the moment. You can smell Zolt Langstadler. Zolt, his front right is not actually in as bad a condition as Ruben, so I have no clue what Ruben's done. But Zolt, I'm sure, isn't going to take no for an answer in this one. He wants to get the best position he can possibly get. Jake also, well, but that's another stupid thing I said. Funnily enough, drivers do want to get the best position they can possibly get, because what's the point in racing if you're not here to get a good position? Shocker. You know, a racing driver does tend to want to finish quite high up the grid. We did miss the move for the lead where I was waffling about racing, but Jake Burke has picked up a penalty in the process. Ruben Thorejo is also under pressure now from Captain Chubbs. It's all to play for now. Anyone in this top 5 even could win this race from here. Jake Burke with that penalty, that lead is not secured. He's going to do everything he can to make this gap bigger. Meanwhile, Ruben Threjo, him battling is really going to cost him and everyone else around him the chance to take that lead once Jake serves a penalty. That lead might be secured by the end of this lap if Ruben keeps battling and holding up the cars behind him, and Ruben does eventually lose out to Dominic Kubinski in the Honda NSX. As we just mentioned, that car very, very strong. All he's got to do now is keep the McLaren behind him, and Dominic has got a surefire chance at going for this win. I feel like anyone who gets past Ruben Threjo has a chance at going for the win at this point. It's just Ruben Threjo which is slowing them all down, because that front right tyre is impossible to turn around left-handers, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out what the majority of the corners are around this track, especially the high abrasive ones. Dom's made some kind of mistake though. He's dropped right back. Captain Chubbs now into P2, Dom P3. Will just has to miss out. Looks like he was thinking about a move, but it's not really one you can pull there. He's going to go for a move here. He is going to go for a move here. It's very opportunistic. There is a tiniest bit of contact. Very opportunistic. It's one I will be watching back. It's noted in my steward's notebook. It's noted. That little fucking stupid thing that you see in Formula 1, incident noted, basically means when they can't be asked to do it right now. But after all of that, Jake Burke still has a relatively healthy lead, I think it's fair to say. Healthy if you consider it in the grand scheme of how close all of these cars are in the top 5, but it's not healthy in a racing term. It's only half a second, it's within slipstream, and Chubbs is not hanging around. Chubbs is looking for another win. He's won at the first round of the season in every season he has taken part in, and I'm sure he's going to be continuing that trend. He won one race in season 1 of the DTM, he won back-to-back in season 2 of the DTM. Surely he's going to be going for a win tonight, but everyone around him is going to be hoping that he doesn't, and it's going to be them that wins it. The gap is increasing slightly between Jake Burke and Captain Chubbs. Jake Burke has some serious pace in that Honda NSX. You'd expect the other person to be competing against him is Dominic Kubinski, but he's getting stuck up in this battle with the two Supras. Either way you look at it though, it's going to be a good old race points-wise for Team Supra and Team NSX. It's Chubbs forced to the outside, still side-by-side out the exit, but Dominic Kubinski goes to go through, so does Will Sutters. Very, very opportunistic on the exit there. Sees the gap and goes for it, and a good move from him. Smart racing. Sometimes when it comes to racing, you just have to be patient and wait for the right gap to open up, and that's exactly what Will Sutters just did there. But Dominic Kubinski now in prime position to take Jake Burke, and I'm sure he will not be going lightly. 3 laps to go, 8, 9 and 10. Will Sutters now goes for that inside, hopping all over the curb. It's another quite late dive bomb from Will, but it's another one I'll check. But Will now in the prime position for P2, but while all of them are battling like this, it's giving Jake Burke a bigger and bigger gap. This is not what they want to be doing. Not at all what they want to be doing, but Will Sutters is, I'm sure, fueled by that collision early on in the race. He's fueled by the fact he didn't win the first race, and the penalty at the very end of the race must have been heartbreaking for him. He is going for this one, and he is going to take blood with him if he has to. Going purple once again through the first sector, half a tenth up, but Jake Burke is also up this first sector. Jake Burke is flying through. Jake is also hoping for this win, but he does make a big mistake through that downhill left-hander, and it's not a corner you want to make a mistake on. It backs up onto a very long straight that Will Sutters now has the advantage on. The gap is less than a second now. We'll be closing into slipstream length soon. Dominic Kubinski is just about to fall out of the slipstream. They are tantalisingly close to it being a 2-car battle, no longer 4 cars, no longer 5 cars. It has been 5 cars for a lap or so now. Will Sutters again, 3 tenths up. This is a mighty fine lap from Will, and he is closing heavy on Jake. Jake has the pace, though. He displayed it earlier in this very lap. Jake has the pace. Does he have the consistency to do that pace again? All will tell. Will half a second behind now, half a second behind Jake Burke. He has to sit patiently. He's got 2 laps to do it. 2 laps to patiently sit behind him and figure out the right time to make the move. Will he do it now or will he do it next lap? Will he do it the lap after? Will Sutters, the fastest lap of the race, is a 50.1, which is impressive considering the amount of fighting that's been going on in this race. Will gap around 4 tenths now. Jake seems to have the advantage through that first sector. Might be a thing to do with the NSX through there. But keep an eye on these two as we go onto the back straight. Witchell's made another position, I believe. Zoltan Shadler's fallen quite far back. So everyone back here has made a... Oh no, it's Ruben Thorejo, sorry. Witchell has made a move on Ruben Thorejo. But Jake Burke is doing all he can. Again, wide at the apex there. This is all Will Sutters. Will Sutters hounding around the back of him, weaving to the inside and then back out to the outside. Will Sutters is forced to take that outside line. Jake Burke on the inside. He's going to do everything he can. Will Sutters goes back for the inside, but he can't quite make it stick. He doesn't quite have the overspeed. Is he going to go for the dive? He's not. He's going to be patient. Stick on the racing line. Hope to get the better exit on the exit. Funnily enough, that's where the exit does happen. Jake Burke plants the car in exactly the right position to defend, and Will has nothing to do against it. Will's got to be patient, wait another lap, but the next lap is the last lap. This is all to play for in the final lap battle for the lead. In the background, Dominic Gawinski has just lost out to Che Easton, but again, final lap battle for the final podium position. And that's Che Easton made some kind of mistake there on the exit. Dominic Gawinski might be looking at an opportunity for a move here. Not quite. All of this happening though, Jake Witchell in the background is, well, he's probably grinning with glee at this one, because he knows that any mistake from any of these top 4 could land him in a podium position on the medium tyres after being last place on the first lap. And that is quite a performance, but so is Will Sutters on these soft tyres, being involved in that first lap incident. He is looking at a potential race win, but Jake Burke is keeping that gap slightly larger than it was before. Jake Burke is doing a very good job. All he has to do is nail that downhill left-hander before the tunnel, and he's got a chance. Will just losing time through that first sector. It appears his tyres, no, they're the same as Jake's, but he's just falling out of slipstream. Jake has to nail this corner. And he does nail the corner. He does it very beautifully as well. Will's still slightly quicker, but Jake has nailed that way better than he has done in the past couple of laps. This could be it for Jake Burke, his first PDT win and the second win of the series. But Will, he doesn't want to become Mr. P2 to be his second P2 of the series. Dominic in the background. Dominic has made a bit of a gap between Chubbs and himself, and it is Jake Witchell all over the back of Chubbs. Jake is not going to say no to a P4. Going to do everything he can. He's got a 5-second gap behind him. They both have nothing to lose. Looking back up at the lead, was a bit of a slide from Jake Burke. Bit of slide. Will, is he going to go for the dive? Not quite. Oh, he has slightly. He has gone for a dive to the inside, but it hasn't quite paid off for him. Hasn't really lost him much on the exit. It's going to be close. Is he going to go for it? He has to go for it, but he doesn't quite. It does dummy Jake a bit into thinking he has gone for it. Is it going to be enough? Will Sutters all over the back of Jake Burke here. Is going to be a drag race to the line. Not quite. Will Sutters has gotten a slightly worse exit, and it is going to be Jake Burke to take the second ever race win of the Polyphony Drivers Trophy. Will Sutters in P2. And it's Dominic Gawinski with his second P3 of the night. Jake Witchell does take home P4, overtaking Captain Chubbs, P5, Ruben P6, Adam 7, Sophie 8, Stein 9, Super is 10th, so he'll be starting on pole for the next race, and then it's the 2 Belgian newcomers in 11th and 12th. But what a fight for the lead that is. That is what we are looking forward to for this season. That is what I was very optimistic with after being a part of pre-season, and I'm sure we will see a lot more of this season. For Peyton now, missing out on his smoke break, bless him. But he comes home to take the final finishing position. But it is your race winner, Jake Birkenhead, followed by Will Sutters and Dominic Kubinski. What a race indeed that was. Jake starting P6, I believe. I think that's what that means. He started quite far down the grid. What a race. Very good race between those two. Kept relatively clean at most parts. There was a couple of times where Will went for, or could have gone for, some really opportunistic moves, and it's good that he showed restraint and didn't. Both very patient with each other, and a good race overall. So, good win from Jake Birkenhead. One I'm sure he's very happy about, and one that I'm sure should hopefully continue a trend for him. I'm hoping he wins not just one race this season. I will be looking at that in stewarding, mate, don't worry. I don't think I actually quite caught it on stream, but to be fair, that if it was the first lap, it was so hectic I couldn't see anything. But what a race. Well done to Jake Birkenhead. But I think the main takeaway from this, though, is Zolt Langstadler, he is in the fastest launching car. He's going to be starting on pole in this next race. He's going to have a mighty big lead out of turn 1. And he's probably going to be hoping that there's a similar level of carnage on that first lap than there was to that second race. Zolt Langstadler, do not count him out for this next race. He's on the soft tyre. He's going to be getting a mighty big lead if last race is anything to go by. And as well, if last race is anything to go by, we are in for a very exciting season. Oh dear, my voice is going. So we are going to get started for the third and final race of the evening very, very soon, I should hope. Oh, look who it is. Luke Clark here to watch the show. There's a reminder in the chat as well to anyone who hasn't used the mediums yet. This is your chance. Have to use the mediums at least once per evening. Also, another rule is anyone who's won a race has to use the mediums twice next week. So Jake Witchell and Jake Burke, the two Jakes, get used to their medium tyres because you're going to be using them in 2 separate races next week. And I don't know, it depends whether you look forward to that or not. I sure as hell wouldn't. It's called suffering from success or something along those lines. We do have another car out on track, though. It is the man in question, the man who I think will be able to pull off something quite magnificent if the stars align today. Zolt Langstadler starting on pole. He's had pace. He's in the car to get a really, really good start. All he has to do is keep his head cool. Keep his head cool for the race and keep that pace up. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Zolt's just crashed into a wall, though. If he does that, I don't think he's winning. Bless him. There we go, there's another NSX out on track now, and another NSX out on track. Oh, we are being treated by the Honda boys with 3 NSXs out on track. NSXs, if you will. Dominic Kubinski is another one where I've been impressed, quietly impressed by his performance tonight. 2 P3s is nothing to scoff at, and it sits him quite high in the championship so far. I think it's fair to say, if we were to do a championship based on the races we've had so far, I believe it would be Will Sutters in first, Jake Witchell in second, and Dominic Kubinski in third. I could be wrong, but I think that is the order it would be in. So Dom is doing a very good job for himself at the moment, but it's all to play for now because Will Sutters is using his set of medium tyres. Guess who else is here? It's the man, the myth, the legend in the other Lark McLaren. It's Luke Clark himself. Luke, obviously a GTRC legend at this point, to be honest. He's done 3 or 4 seasons with us, but he's already cemented himself as a cult hero, I think it's fair to say. But here you are, your race leader already, and Super is gone. Super's gone. Okay, Super's leading the race quite convincingly. Stein P2 also quite far ahead. That was a very interesting rolling start. Adam's just been shunted off by Sophie. Is he going to come back and take Sophie out? No, but I bet he wish he did. This is very interesting. So Super has a lead of leads compared to the rest of the... Oh, Stein. Wait. Oh my god, he's on the racing line. Stein. Stein. Why? I'm not even gonna... Just, look, words don't show I'm disappointed. I am Stein. Why'd you spin? It's not good enough. Professional racing driver, mate. What are you doing? But Super, I mean, Super he's 10 seconds on the road. Could this be the stars aligned? I did say the stars should align if he wants this, and I believe the stars have in fact aligned for Super, as something has happened. He is almost 11 seconds up the road to Captain Chubbs, and they're all fighting like mad. Jake Witchell is made very quick ground. Jake Witchell already there and thereabout. Oh my god, Sophie is fully off the track there as he tries to go for that move, and I'm surprised he didn't end up taking out Jake Witchell there. That was a really reckless overtake. Ruben goes for quite a feisty move himself there. Just bumps Jake out of the way a little bit. At least Ruben was on the track when he did it. Jake going for the move again, and Sophie's just missed his braking once again. Almost shoving Ruben out of the way. Sophie's been slammed into a wall, and that's pushed Dominic out of the way, and Jesus. The thing is though with racing is if you show respect you get respect, and I don't think Sophie was showing much respect there and he didn't get much respect back, so that's just the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. And he's had another incident with Luke there. He needs to learn to be more patient and stop going for moves that aren't really there. He tried holding it around the outside of a car that he shouldn't really hold it around the outside of, and in the end that's left it with Luke in a wall. So it's just learning patience. That's all it is, just learning patience. But Zoltan Schadler, to look in more positive things, Zoltan Schadler with some unholy lead. I can't explain how that's happened, but Zolt just has to keep your head, just keep it steady, boy. You got this, man. Keep it steady. Just don't think, just do, and you'll get it. Don't let Chubbs take the win away from you. Jake Witchell, don't let Chubbs take the win away from Zolt. I know how much you love Super. Let Super have this one. That's a lot of tyre scores there. That was probably Dominic Kabinski. Or as I believe Ruben calls him, Dickhead Kabinski. For some reason it shows that the gap between Dom and Jake is 1 minute 55. I can confirm that that is not correct because they are about 3 car lengths away from each other. But we move. That's just the way it is. The gap's increased again between Zoltan Schadler and Che Easton. I believe Che might have had some kind of penalty because Jake is all over the back of him. Jake going for the outside, Che for the inside. Jake can't really hold around the outside there, as we've seen so many times before in this race. It's just not a smart move to go for. Jake has to back out, but he's just letting Chubbs know that he's there by doing that move. Chubbs has pace. Jake also has pace. So does Dominic. Does Zolt have pace? He's keeping the gap around 10 seconds. He's just got to keep doing what he's doing. Jake is now ahead of Chubbs in a move that I did miss. I seem to be missing all of the moves. Jake's now ahead. And Jake, let it happen. You know you want it to happen. Let it happen. What have we always wanted? You've wanted a Zoltan Schadler win. Let it happen, my friend. I'm manifesting it. Yeah, look, there you go. See, Chubbs is trying to attack him to make the Zoltan Schadler win happen. Super needs a win. Chubbs around the outside. Chubbs not quite into the wall, thank fuck. Very un-Chubbs-like. The train is very quickly forming between 2nd through to 7th, really. Maybe 6th and 7th you won't count as in that train, but they are there and thereabout. So Will Sutters is falling back a little bit, having to put up with their medium tyres. I know, shocker. He has to use the medium tyres. He was getting good results in the first 2 races, and this is why, because other people were on the mediums. Now he's using the mediums himself in a race where no one else really is on the mediums. So he has to suffer. And that is the caveat with using the mediums at a different time to everyone else. You're going to have one horrifically bad race while everyone else is on a much faster tyre than you. But, oh, Chubb's very close to losing it. Sideways all the way through there, and he does lose the position to Dominic Kubinski, if he's losing something at least. Chubb's someone who has historically bottled it so hard so many times that we now call him the Glass, is now down to P4. But Ruben just holding off 6th and 7th quite well. But Ruben, I would love to know what Thorejo is doing to that front right tyre, because he has been so bad on the tyre wear, on that tyre, for the entire evening. And I said tyre so many times in that sentence that I feel like it's not a real word anymore. Or entire. The entire tyre. The entire time I've been thinking about the entire tyre and how the tyre wear is entirely wrong. Jesus wept. Ruben goes for the move again. He's not having a P6, but Adam is holding it well. Oh, almost contact there between Adam and Ruben. And there's contact between Will Sutters and Ruben is spinning and off into the wall. Is Will Sutters going to wait? He is, yes. Will has waited. Oh, that was a scruffy move. That was really scruffy, but it was an accident. Didn't look like an overtake. It was just a racing incident. Fortunately, that happened, but that is not going to be good news for Will Sutters, because he needs to make the most he can out of these medium tyres, and so far that has not been happening for him. To a sight he wouldn't want to be seeing in his rear view mirrors now, though. Stein has made his way back up to P6. Was he always in P6? Where's Stein there? Well, Stein's there. Stein's in P6. Stein's actually doing pretty good for himself. I'll tell you who is doing good for himself. Go on, Super. Please, Super, do it for us. The gap is still 8 seconds between himself and Jake Witchell. Jake Witchell is also making a big gap between himself and Dominic Kubinski. So this fight for the win could be a 2-horse race if Jake Witchell does find a way to catch up. Jake does have the pace. Zolt Langstadler has the position. And you don't have to be a maths genius to realise that if one man has better pace while the other one has the position, he's not going to hang around and let that one man keep the position. I don't think it's got anything to do with maths, but hey ho. Hey goddamn. Chubbs all over the back of Adam now. Adam looking all over in his rear view mirrors. Chubbs going for the move again. Che Easton making that one look easy. Adam leaves it nice and wide open for him. No point fighting a losing move. I think it's fair to say Adam has plenty of other chances to get it back. We are halfway through the race, so there's no point driving like an idiot. Put simply, no point driving like an idiot. Can Stein van der Hart do anything as well? Stein looking like he's got some pretty competitive pace for the first time tonight. Could this be a teller of what we can see for the rest of the season while he's not backwards on the racing line hitting everyone? Sorry Stein, I had to bring it up. He's just made a mistake throughout the final corner, so I'm sorry for cursing it for you. But the battle rages on for P7. Ruben Thorejo versus Will Sutters. Former GTRC champion versus Will Sutters. I went there. And it looks like the GTRC champion is proving to everyone why he won what he won. Will goes for the inside. Very opportunistic there. I feel there was definitely a gap and Ruben's lost 2 positions out of it. Jake gives Will a bit of his own medicine. Goes for the inside on the next corner. But Will is fully aware of what's going on around him. He's no idiot. He's no slouch. He's done all this before. This ain't his first rodeo, but almost. Ruben Thorejo looked like he might have clipped the rear end of Will there like he did to him earlier on in this race. No bad blood between any of these drivers, but they're certainly not making it look like it's that way. Into the wall a little bit there, Will Sutter's trying to go for a move where there's really a car's width between the wall and Jake. Contact again into the braking zone. Will Sutter's heavy down the inside. Jake does get the inside again, but I think Will's still got quite a strong exit. He does have a strong exit. He does keep that move. Make it stick, keep the position. Ruben makes a big mistake there going up the hill. And unfortunately he does drop back from this battle. So he will have to... Oh my lord. He's just been barged out of the way by Sophie. Not the first move tonight where we've seen Sophie do that. The gap up front now is 4.5 seconds between Zolt Langstadler and Jake Witchell. Can Jake Witchell go for a second for tonight? Can Zolt Langstadler go for a first ever GTRC race win? I said before this race that the stars had to align for Zolt, and it appears that that has exactly happened, but he has to make the most of this opportunity, because these opportunities don't come around all the time. Jake just biding his time, setting the quickest laps he can set. On this pace, Jake will be catching Zolt Langstadler, and that will be an interesting, spicy battle to say the least, because it's all to play for Zolt. Jake, he hasn't got much to lose. He's done this so many times before. He's won in this series, or in this league, so many times before. He's even won in this series before, being the first winner earlier tonight. But Zolt has everything to play for at this stage. Dominic Kabinski as well, looming in the background for what can be his third in a row. But what do we know about 333? That is Stein's racing number 333. Stein, 3 seconds behind Chubbs, almost 3 seconds ahead of Sutters. Could this be a top 4? Could it be a top 6? We don't know what Stein could get here. But we know whatever it is, it's an improvement on what he's had in the last 2 races. He's not been dealt the best hand tonight, but this race could change it and could put him in a positive trajectory for the rest of the season. So Stein just biding his time. This could be a good one for him. Just needs to keep a level head, like his former teammate Zolt Langstadler, the one that he got a 1-2 with at the end of the last season of DTM. Bide his time, keep it steady, and he might be able to come home with a top 5 finish. Will Sutters is under pressure from Jake Burke on them soft tyres. Sutters will not want to be losing out. He needs to make the most of every position he can get while he's on them medium tyres. He sets a new personal best. It's a 151.4 by the looks of it. Jake dummies to the inside, but Will is a smart racer. He knows that he wouldn't go for that move. He knows that Jake has a brain in his head, and he knows that it's not a smart move to go for, but Jake picks up a penalty. He might cut the corner slightly, so Will goes, there you go, mate, you can have that move. I'm just going to get you back later on. What is the point of slowing yourself down, holding up a guy that you know you can just overtake again after the penalty line? So Jake Burke gets ahead for now, but it's not going to stay that way for long, I don't think. Let's not jinx it for Will. Adam Hands, P9, and Ruben Thorejo. Oh, sorry, Adam Hands at P8, Ruben Thorejo, P9. Ruben still with that front right issue. He needs to fix out his issue with the front tyres, because my God, how is he wearing them off that much? It's impressive. Something quite interesting about the McLaren, by the way, is, you ready? Central driving seat. How cool is that? Going for the move in the central driving seat. On board into this heavy braking zone, and what a view we are getting of Pokemon Park. Adam takes the move back from him, but this car is stunning. I will say it again and again, this is one of my favourite cars of all time. I love the McLaren F1 GTR, the short tail. It's that front right though, he's costing him, especially in these left-handers. Just hasn't got what it takes to fight against Adam, who is on much better tyres at this stage in the race. But while this is happening, Super, take a bow, still leading the race after lap 1. He's got 2 more laps to do it. The gap between himself and Witchell is 2 seconds. He just needs to keep it steady. 2 seconds, 2 laps, 1 second a lap. That's all he can afford to lose. It just seems like he's lost half a second in that one corner alone. He needs to keep it under control. Because Witchell, he's experienced, he knows what he's doing. He's won championships, he's won everything, Jake Witchell. Zolt Langsadler, he's not yet to prove himself. He is a proven driver, but he's yet to get that elusive GTRC win. And Witchell, he's a racing driver. He's not going to do it out of sympathy. He is going to take the win when he gets the opportunity. This could be all to play for. Kubinski now is under pressure from Chubbs. Chubbs within the slipstream. Kubinski might not be getting the 3-3-3 like we all hoped. He might be getting ousted from the podium if he's not careful. Chubbs has had a lot of pace tonight. He could be going for it. Stein, though, take a bow, Stein. After two really disappointing races, big struggles, even this race, a spin at the start of the race, P5 and holding that position comfortably. Good on you, Stein Van Hart, well done. And I'm sure he will be thrilled with a top 5 position. Kubinski now under heavy pressure. Rubens lagged out by the looks of it. He was saying he has internet issues recently. But the big battle to be looking out for isn't the one for Dominic Kubinski. It is Zolt Langsadler, and can he hold off the experienced Jake Witchell, 2-time champion in GTRC, in one occasion, might I add, but never the driver's champion, never a race winner. Jake Witchell, he goes for the outside. Zolt Langsadler holds the inside. Both clean and respectful drivers. Zolt obviously racing for one of the biggest teams in Hungary. Jake racing for the biggest team in the world, Team Spirit. But Jake does make the move, goes down the inside. Both of these actually racing for Team Spirit, might I add. Jake makes the move for the lead, and the gap is 0.3, but we know the straight line speed of that McLaren. Jake is also aware of it. That's why he's going straight for that inside line. He knows he has to cover it at every opportunity he's got. Zolt, the outside, has he got the tyres to make it stick? He sweeps. Don't lose your cool, Zolt. This could still happen. Jake Witchell looks to be on course for the second win of the night, but it's all still to play for. One more big overtaking opportunity. Zolt has lost a lot of pace, though. He's lost a lot of time on Jake. The gap might be too big for him to do it. The gap might just be too big for him to do it. So despite everything, despite an incredible lead at the start of the race, and despite an incredible race from Zolt Langsadler, it appears that Jake Witchell will be winning the second race of the night after a very, very hardly fought win. But well done, Zolt Langsadler, after almost, but just missing out once again on his first win. Almost taking it. A great performance from him. Chubbs does take the P3. Dominic Kubinski with P4, so he doesn't keep up his streak. Stein with a penalty over the line, but it shouldn't matter because he takes home a P5 and a really impressive performance. Jake Burke, Will Sutters and Adam, and next Sophie with the P9, with certainly some stuff to be looking at in the steward's room. Luke Clark, P10, and Drouchout P11. Upsetting for Luke Clark, obviously, because of the incidents he got himself involved in, but good on him. He just came back from an ACC race, so good on him. And it is for Peyton who takes home the final position. So we'll just watch him in these last few laps, but well done, Jake Witchell, for taking home a second win of the night. It was a very difficult one, a very hardly fought win, the gap being 10 seconds at one point. So incredible from him. Very great pace shown the whole night. And super. Take a bow, mate. You did an incredible job. Started on pole, led the entire race up until the final few corners, and was all on the pace. Great work from him. Great job. Captain Chubbs as well, breaking Dominic Kubinski's podium streak. There you are, Jake Witchell, the clean race bonus. Once again, this is what he does. This is what we're all so used to him doing as well. So we do have a tiny bit of time for maybe one or two interviews. Just a tiny bit, because I do have to leave for work in about 10 minutes. So let's make it quick. Who should we interview? Who should we? I feel like an interesting one. Let's interview the man that has won, well, 2 races tonight, really. There's no other way of putting it. Jake Witchell has won himself 2 separate races, and I feel like he is fully deserving of an interview tonight. So we'll just invite him to the party. If all the audio gets slightly quieter, I'll interview Super after I've done Jake, and we'll see. We'll have like a war in the interview box. Whereas let's invite Super as well. Let's see, is Jake Witchell going to join though? That's the thing. I'm going to put in the chat interviews. Oh no, well I can't put that because the lobby has gone down. So we'll just wait a couple of moments if they do understand that they've got invites for the interviews. If not, then it's been a pleasure tonight, but I am going to bed. No, I'm not going to bed. I'm not allowed to go to bed. Ah, Luke, you are here. No, I'm not inviting you, Dom. You just said you just said me. I thought you said not me. I'm not inviting you. I'd rather invite Luke than you, Dom. Super, make sure your voice sharing's on.
I'm not saying to which he need to join here. Sorry.
Is your voice sharing on, Super?
Yeah, I was in the party.
So the stream can hear you. Can we hear Super? Can anyone in chat confirm that we can hear Super?
I hear you, actually.
Well, I should bloody well hope you can hear me.
Yeah, both. It's good.
Okay, cool. We've also got Dom in. Dom, make sure your voice sharing's on.
I think it is on now.
Well, I don't know. Is it? I'm not going to be able to tell you. So we'll interview.
Yeah, it is on.
We'll interview Super first because, like, Jesus, mate, what a race! I mean, I don't really know what happened at the start of that third race, but that was pretty good. Made a very big gap at the start of the race, but you couldn't quite keep the pace up. What were you thinking in that moment, though?
The last race, probably it was a glitch. My car is speeded up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I had a huge gap.
Yeah. So did Stein, actually. Stein got a massive gap as well, but then he spun.
Oh, I didn't saw.
Yeah, so Stein was like 4 seconds behind you, but then he spun on like the third corner.
Yeah. I was worried about my pace. On the second race, we had some problems on the soft tires, Ruben and me.
That front right.
Yeah, the front right, and probably the first race was on the night, and the second and the third on the daytime. And
yeah.
Probably it was a little bit different on the tires there. Actually, we tried to win, but the god don't want this. So probably next time.
It will come though, I think. You two have showed that F1 GTR does have a lot of pace. People before the season were saying it was really bad, but it's a good car. It's definitely a very good car.
On the braking zone, it's pretty bad, in my opinion. The rear end is is pretty light. The rear, it's can a little bit oversteery on the braking zone. It's a little bit hard to control most of times.
The straights, though, very good.
Yeah, on the straight is pretty good. The top speed is no problem. With that, only the braking and the turning in the corners, the rotation is not the best.
Right, so let's get on to Mr. Gabinski, the other Eastern European. So you were in what many people are calling the best car this season, and you were doing quite a good job in it, to be fair. It was a P3, and then a P4. I didn't quite catch that. What happened between you and Chubbs at the end of that race?
My brakes are ass. Like, the car doesn't brake. Chubbs can be 4 times behind me, can brake 200 meters after me, and can still brake better than me. So, I just can't brake. Right.
So he just kind of got the dive bomb on you, and you weren't able to counter it.
Yeah, no.
It's fair.
I was calling him retarded.
That's very nice.
Yeah. Apart from that, race 1, disappointed. No, not race 1, sorry, race 2. Race 2, I'm disappointed. I was stuck behind Adam for too long.
Yeah, you had decent pace in race 2, and I did point it out, you had very decent pace, but it just seemed to fall off at some point around like lap 3, lap 4.
Yeah, Adam was pissing me off, so I kind of lost, like, I crashed out. Not actually, but like, on my mic. But my tire wear is still ass, so yeah.
Well, I don't really think tyre wear is that important unless you're in the F1 GTR. If you want to know bad tyre wear, look at Ruben's front right. That was, like, honestly, Ruben's front right. What was that at the end? It was less than half at the end of every single soft race. Like, genuinely, it was bad. If he was complaining to you lot about it in the party, it's like he wasn't milking it.
I wasn't in there.
Yeah, fair. If he was complaining about it, he wasn't milking it. Genuinely, that front right was awful, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like it with Ruben. Yeah, Ruben, I don't know what you're supposed to do, mate. That was atrocious. That was really bad. But right.
The car is insane in the straights, though. Like, gains like 3 tenths.
Yeah, your car and Ruben's car are both very good on the straights.
Yeah, he was still catching me like 3 times, so...
Yeah. I think also the GTR's quite good. From what I've heard, the GTR's quite good.
GTR seemed really nice, yeah.
Yeah, it's had a good buff recently. There was a period where it wasn't very competitive, but now I feel like the GTR is a lot stronger. So, good on it.
Yep.
So there's not really much else to talk about. I'm going to mute Don before he starts screaming over me while I'm doing the outro. There he goes. So if he can scream all he likes. I haven't muted Super, though, just because I know Super's going to be quiet. So cheers, everyone, for tuning in for the first race of the season. This was a belter, I think it's fair to say, first round of the season. It's very exciting. And it makes me very excited for the rest of the season. If you did like this format, please feel free to let us know. If you did like my commentary, do subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can keep up every single week when I do stream. And give it a like. I don't really know what difference it makes if you like it or not. But just make sure to follow the channel to make sure that you get the notification for when the stream comes up. Because the streams, if they're going to be as good as they were tonight, it's going to be a good few weeks of racing. I think that's fair to say. So, cheers everyone. It's been a fun night. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to Super and to Dominic who came in and did interviews.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Super. Would you like to have any final words?
Yeah.
There you go. That's his final word. Laughter and yeah. So we will see you all.
Bye.
Bye. We will see you all same time next week. If you did enjoy it. If you didn't enjoy it, watch it anyway. You don't get an option. So cheers everyone who raced. Cheers everyone who watched. And